Good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to try something a little bit different with Uncovering Midrash. We're going to be trying to figure out an answer to a question that I have, and hopefully we will. And I could not find an explicit Midrash addressing this possibility. So what we're going to be going with is we're going to be doing what so we're going to be going through what exactly. First, I'll ask the question, then we'll see how we get to the answer, and we'll see if people like the answers or not. It's going to be interactive, so please, let's jump in. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing screen. Yeah, I'm going to be switching between a PowerPoint as well as between the Sukkim themselves. So please let me know if any point is unclear, or if you need help finding things, just let me know and I will gladly just switch it around. Okay, here we go. So, question being, what if Yosef held himself back? Right? So what does that question mean? So I'll don't worry, everybody some background on what I mean. Okay? So here we go. So what's with those psukim? So first we figure out what I mean by Yosef holding himself back. So when we get to the big reveal scene that's coming through Parsha, then we see, right, Yosef could not hold himself back. So my question is, what if Yosef did hold himself back? So the obvious question is, what on earth does that mean? Right? What was he holding himself back from? Right? That's the first question people should be asking. Right? What does litapek mean? So luckily, this isn't the first time this has happened. So here we go. Let me a second. Do a new share. Here we go. So let's. So everybody sees what I'm showing now. Okay, good. So we're going to be going through the psukim here. So the first case, we'll probably go primarily through here until we get to the Mefarshim, and then I'll be summarizing it elsewhere. Okay. So here we go. So this whole thing starts from Yosef's first time seeing the brothers. So what do I mean by that? So you have the brothers going down to get food from Egypt, right? Yosef is currently in charge of all of Mitzrayim, but the brothers don't know that. So, right, so they're coming down, and then they bow. And then we see, and Yosef was governor over the land, right? We're in verse 6. Okay. And then we see that it was, right? And then Joseph's brethren came down and bowed down to him their faces to the earth. So now, and Yosef saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spoke to them roughly, and he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from Land of Canaan to buy food. And Yosef knew or recognized his brethren, but they knew him not. Right, and Yosef remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said to them, you are spies, see the natives of the land you have come. So the question is, so there's a lot of Yosef recognizing, remembering, and thinking, and in fact, if you were to actually look at Targum Onkelos on verse 9, right?
Can't we wait with this? I want to watch Chaim.
Okay, Grandma, I'm muting you. I'll mute whenever when you're ready. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Grandma. Okay. So basically, when we say that, when we have that, right? We have Yosef recognizing the brothers don't recognize him. He's thinking very hard. We have his inner thought process, his inner remembering. So the question is, what's going on in Yosef's head? So for this, I'd like to ask the audience, what do we think Yosef's doing now? What was he thinking when he when he said, when he decided to accuse the brothers of being spies. Why would he do this? It requires interaction.
He was getting back at them.
One option is revenge. So the only problem is that if he's getting back at them, well, then why is he being very nice about it, right? He seems to be relatively nice in terms of the revenge, and it's super drawn out.
He wanted to see if they regretted what they did.
Took it out.
Right? So the other option is it to see.
Wait, we drank it a second ago. I just took it out.
Okay. Sorry. Are we that Elaine?
What? Did you hear what I said?
You said like a Barbanel, that he tried to get them to do tshuva, right?
Right. And to see if they regretted what they had done.
Right. See if they regretted. Right. So that's the Barbanel, right? His goal was getting them to repent. Right. That was his whole problem, the whole thing. Very good. Okay, so what are the other options? What was his initial thought here? Why was he doing this? Right, we have potential revenge plot. We have get them to repent. Any other possibilities?
He wanted to see how they were treating Binyamin, who was the other brother from Rachel.
Right, he's deciding, should I kill them or not? Right, he's like deciding, do I like my brothers? Do I not like my brothers? He's like, yeah, let's see. So there's another option, right, which is given by Ramban, is that emphasizing the fact that Yosef remembers his dreams, that Yosef is trying to fulfill his dreams, right? He notices brothers bowing. Wait a minute, I remember this, right? I had a dream about this, and wait a minute, it's coming true, right? Or not fully coming true. It's coming true-ish. Right, Ramban says, well, here he remembers the dreams, but none of them haven't been fulfilled yet, and now he's going to set about making sure that they all come true. So the question would be, well, why would you want the dreams to come true? Like, why would they be beneficial? The Ramban, right? I want to fulfill the dreams. What end could that have for us? How could it be helpful? So one option is that there's simply merit in fulfilling a nevuah, right? God said so. Yosef has no idea why he's doing this, but it's going to be helpful. So that's why he does it, right? God gave me these dreams and they're prophetic in nature, and then clearly by fulfilling these dreams, it'll be better for the Jewish people. So it's a little hard to swallow. So the Sforno gives another option, and not only is it that, but it's that by fulfilling the dreams, it'll help the Jews moving forward. Because what the forefathers do will indicate the future for their descendants. So by Yosef fulfilling these conditions, it'll be better in the long run for the Jews. So this is still, again, I'm sure this is all very confusing, right? We have a whole bunch of options of what Yosef's doing. Okay, so the first thing we have, Yosef has some sort of plan. What is that plan is unclear. Right? It's some complex plan involving the brothers and making them go through certain steps that parallels what has gone through Yosef as well as what goes on in his dreams. And the question is, where is he getting to? Okay? So this, right, but we still haven't explained what on earth, we still the question of why do we have Yosef then saying, why couldn't he heal himself back? How does that relate to his plan here? So we still don't quite see, but we see a little bit, right? So after his initial accusing of the brothers, and they say, "Oh no, we're not spies," he says, "Prove it," and and send somebody back to get to bring other brother to verify your story. He throws them in jail, and now we see the inner thinkings of the brothers. So what do the brothers say? Somebody care to read the brothers' inner thought bubble? They think this is their inner thought bubble, by the way. They think this is what they think, they're just talking amongst themselves. Okay, that's the premise here. So what do they say? So who'd like to read what the brothers' thought process is going on during this time? Right? We don't know Yosef's. We know that Yosef is being deliberately make things harder for them. We're not sure how.
Okay, I'd read.
Okay. Verse 21.
And they said to one another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore, in this distress come upon us.
Right? So they're basically saying that it's their fault. All the bad stuff now is because we didn't properly protect our brother. Okay? And then we have Reuven acting a little childish, saying, I told you so. Right? So, and they knew not that Yosef understood them, for the interpreter was between them. So as far as the Vayitapek, we get our first hint of what Vayitapek is now. Okay? We see that in verse 24. Okay? Elaine, continue, please.
24.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned himself about from them and wept. And he returned to them and spoke to them and took Shimon from among them and bound him before their eyes.
Okay, so now, so what looks out of place in what happens in this dastardly plan of Yosef? Let's say if he was doing the revenge plot, what doesn't fit?
That he wept.
Right? He wept. If somebody's busy trying to exact revenge, like, why is he crying all of a sudden? Like, what's going on? Right? So you could say that he wanted to do revenge, and now he decided, he changes his mind now. But if he changes his mind, then look what happens next. If he changes his mind and I'm not doing revenge anymore, so what's his next step of the plan? Is that he, right, look at 25.
25, you have to move it up.
Yep, there we go.
There you go. Then Yosef commanded to fill their vessels with corn and to restore every man's money into his sack and to give them provisions for the way. And thus was it done unto them.
Okay, right? So Yosef, for some reason, thinks it's a good idea to give them their money back. So how could this be helpful to give them their money back? What could this mean?
To see how honest they are.
Right? To test their honesty. If we're back to the test, right? We're doing testing. Will this work with the revenge anymore? Would that fit anymore? I don't think so, right? Maybe initially the thought was, let's get revenge, but the revenge is out the window. One is definitely at this point, even if initially Yosef wanted to, be cruel to the brothers, at this stage, it doesn't make sense. Like, how is putting money in their sacks going to have anything to do with revenge? Doesn't seem to fit anymore. So we're left with the other options of fulfilling the dreams and some sort of repentance, right? Some sort of hubris, some sort of development of the brothers and making them worthy again.
Wait,
Yes.
but he puts money back in their sacks. He could accuse them of stealing.
He already had them in jail. Why is he wasting? What's the point? Meaning he had every ground. Right now he holds all the power. Once they're in jail, why have them leave only to arrest them again on false charges? He did that once already. Why do the same trick again? Right? How's that going to help?
Yeah. Okay.
What's revenge? Unless you think the revenge, you could say that he's just saying he's revenge because he's like, well, I want to involve not just the brothers, but I want to involve Binyamin, who's not here, or perhaps Yaakov, who's not here, or the rest of their families too in this revenge plot. Right? It's not enough just to get my brothers back for what they did to me, the 10 brothers who sold me out. I need to get back to everybody else who may or may not have been involved. So that still is there, but it just seems a lot less vengeful at this point in time. Right? His plan went less intense also. It went from being one person going to everybody else in jail to being one person in jail and everybody else being able to go back to bring everybody else down. So like his vengeance plot is getting weak, if it is a vengeance plot. And so, but it's still possible at this point. It looks maybe like it's a vengeance plot. But the problem is again, if it's a vengeance plot, why is he crying while doing the vengeance plot? So, and that I don't know. Okay. So, also, if anybody's having trouble speaking up, you feel free to write your comments in the chat. Okay. So now let's keep on going down. So, right. So then so now we're going to fast forward a little bit to again to when they come back down the next time. Okay, we're going to leave aside what goes down in the politics of the family, and we're going to go down to when he sees them again. Here we go. 1 second. Let's get back to Yosef see the brothers. Here we go. Here we go. Now we skip forward. Now we finally have the brothers have come back. Right? They finally managed to convince. Right? So we didn't just go to film. We skipped. So again, the brothers went back without Shimon. Yaakov is distraught that can't believe you lost another one of my children. Like, what's wrong with you people? And then he's like, I'm not saying that you guys are not going to get Benjamin back now. You already lost one. Why would you let you lose another kid? Like, this is the third one now. Like, no. Right? And then Yehuda convinces him because the answer is either you might lose Benjamin or we're all going to die. So I'll take care of it. And then so they go down, right? They bring in extra a mincha. They bring a gift of some sort to appease him, to appease Yosef. Again, they don't know his name's not Yosef. According to them, they know him as being as Safa Paneas, the vizier of Egypt. So what happens? So, right. So then we see what happens. Vayavo. Now we see when they arrive there. Okay. Now verse 26. So now anybody so who'd like to read the next section? We're now up to the second scene. Right. The first meeting we have meetings one. We had scene 1 and scene 1.5. Right. The initial meeting of Yosef and the brothers again, followed by after they come out of jail and their partial confession. So now they're coming back again, and we're seeing what's going on here. I remember before Adam thought a little bit of place was that Yosef started to cry. So now let's see what happens this time. Is he?
First thing he does is ask if his father's alive.
Right. Just read starting from verse 27.
And he asked them of their welfare and said, "Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? Is he yet alive?" And they said, "Thy servant, our father, is well. He is yet alive." And they bowed their head and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw Benjamin, his brother, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke unto me?" Again, youngest son, brother. This guy's, who knows how old he is. He's got 10 kids.
Right.
And he said, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." And Joseph made haste, for his heart yearned towards his brother. And he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chambers and wept there. And he washed his face and came out, and he refrained himself and set on bread. So I think he's refraining himself here from revealing himself.
Right. So you think refrained means from revealing himself? Okay.
And I think it meant before then too. I mean, he loved his brothers,
right?
Even though they did all this stuff.
Right. So he's trying to hold himself back from revealing himself, right? That's what you're saying BAYT means, right? Hold himself back from revealing himself. Any other options for what BAYT means here? What else are we holding back?
I think holding himself back from crying in front of everybody.
Right, holding back his emotions, right? He's trying to, put on this facade of this powerful, commanding figure, and he doesn't want to break that image. So why wouldn't he want to break that image? So to that, we have the theory of Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, that it's a variation on the Barbanel's approach, that it wasn't simply to make the brothers do tshuva for their actions. It was also to repair the broken relationships between him and his brothers, as well as between him and his father. right? He was trying to find the exact right moment to reveal himself to his brothers and to his father to try and fix all that has been wrong until now, right? So it's not just so his brothers do tshuva, but it's so that it's done tshuva on his own terms, right? So if you would like to read the reverse inside, right? It's reverse on chapter 42, verse 7 and 9. If you speak German, I recommend the German. If not, there's translations both Hebrew and English. Whichever language you're more familiar with, please use that translation, because all translations, just use whichever translation, the language you know the best, because they're all direct translations from German. But again, there are slight edits to it in terms of the, sometimes there's a little bit of cleaning up of the language or listing or something that's a little controversial. But for this one, it tends to be pretty faithful, the translations. So anyway, so he says he's trying to hold himself back because he wants to reveal himself at the right time in the right way. So it's not that hold on. So yes, he's doing both. He's holding back his emotions and preventing himself from revealing himself. He's doing both. Okay, so that's reverse. So, right. So what is the part that Yosef doesn't want to, definitely is trying to avoid clearly at this point in time? What's he trying to avoid? Crying, breaking down in front of everybody else. That's what he's trying to avoid. So why? Okay, so the why we have so far is it'll show him being weak, right? That's reverse, right? And he wants to reveal himself at the right time from a position of power. Another option is he simply doesn't want to reveal himself yet, right? He doesn't want to reveal himself yet. That's the whole point, right? Or just maybe not reveal himself, but just want to show emotions because like that's going to ruin the facade and whatever else is going on in his greater plan. Okay, so again, he's holding back his emotions, potentially holding back his identity. The question being, why? Still not super clear. Okay, so then we have afterwards, we have them having a meal together, and he starts giving 5 times as much Binyamin. Why would he be doing that?
Because he's he's the only child from the same mother.
So he's showing. So why? Until now, we know Yosef's plan, right? To change the status quo, right? Make him do tshuva or revenge, right, or something else, or some other intense scheme. So how does this giving Binyamin more play into each of those? Right, so it seems like he's trying to set up the similar situation to what happened to him and his brothers, where he got preferential treatment from Yaakov, and the brothers responded by trying to get rid of Yosef. So he's trying to set the similar situation. See, will the brothers do that or not? Right, that's what it seems like, perhaps. Okay. Right, and then what happens in the next verse? Right, what's the brothers' reactions? Do they have any reaction to? Is there any reaction to them getting more? Nothing yet. Right, and then Yosef decides let's up the ante. One more step. So what does Yosef command them to do?
He put the silver goblet in his sack.
Right, he's going to frame Binyamin by placing the silver goblet in his sack. And what's the reaction of the brothers? Oh, I see we have somebody new joining. Okay, so just to catch you up, assuming your audio is currently functioning, great. So again, we're going through what is Yosef's plan. Right, currently the options we have is Yosef is he's out for revenge. He's trying to have the brothers repent and do tshuva. He's trying to reset his relationship with his brothers. That's for Hirsch. And right. And there's also Ramban if he's still trying to somehow fulfill the dreams. Okay, so those are his potential, what he's trying to do. So now the question is, how does placing of the goblet tie in? Okay, so how would framing Binyamin tie into each of those theories? Right? So it fits in pretty well into for the revenge plot, it doesn't quite fit so well because it's like, well, why? It seems like a very convoluted revenge plot. But it could be that Yosef simply wants to have a very convoluted revenge plot, which is possible. As far as having them do tshuva, right? Making them repent for their actions. So how could that work out? Right? Why would the false framing of Binyamin help?
He wanted to know how they would feel when Binyamin is in jail, because if they treated him like Yosef, they wouldn't care.
Right. To see if they've improved. Right. And it seems like they and it seems like they have improved then. Or we'll see in a second how their reaction is and if that improves or not. Right. So maybe he's doing another round of testing. Okay. So if Yosef's setting up another round of testing, so what happens? So and what's the test? Is that he then, of course, after framing them, he sends somebody out to go get them, to chase them down and to accuse them. Okay, and how do the brothers react to being accused? Here, let's start from verse 4. Somebody care to read English, please? Right. We're currently we have the brothers having left the city, not knowing they're framed. So who'd like to read the chase? Anybody here like thriller chase scenes in movies?
And they were gone out of the city, and were not yet far off. Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby he indeed divineth ye have done evil in so doing? And he overtook them, and he spoke unto them these words, and they said unto him, Wherefore speakest my Lord such words as there? Far be it from thy servant that they should do such a thing. First they deny it. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths, we brought back unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? With whomever of thy servants it'll be found, let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen, which is a strange statement to make. It doesn't say who's speaking, but it's a strange statement to make. It sounds like Reuven, because when a tzaddik says something bad going to happen, it happens. So, like the same thing that happened with Yaakov and
Right.
and
Right. Yaakov and Raphael, right? Whoever does it is going to be killed, right? So it sounds like that's setting up right here also. But it seems like, as opposed to what happened last time with Yosef, how do the brothers react to accusation? No, we haven't gotten back to that part yet. But we're saying that right now they seem like they're acting like Yaakov, which is both good and bad. Because Yaakov's denial of the stealing of the Trophim, was that a good thing, or was that good or bad? Right? So
bad,
right? It led to Rachel being cursed. So seemingly they made the same mistake. Now let's see what happens next.
And then they hastened and took down every man's his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack, and he searched beginning at the eldest and leaving off at the youngest, and the goblet was found in Benjamin's sack. Right, so they prolonged the agony here, and they went and they rent their clothes and loaded every man his ass and returned to the city. And Yehuda and his brethren came to Yosef's house, and he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Yosef said unto them, what deed is this that you have done? Know you not that such a man as I will indeed divine? And Yehuda said, what shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's bondsmen, both we and he also in whose hand the cup is found. And he said, far be it from me that I should do so. The man in whose hand the goblet is found, he shall be my bondsman. But as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. Then Yehuda came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. Again, he throws an insult at him while
Right.
he's
So
at it.
let's skip a little bit. This is his repeating of the past, right? I'm just going to highlight that he says that, and his brother, right? This is his last child, and a little one, and his brother is dead. Okay. And then he goes through saying how they brought him here, and he says how the father cannot abandon him or he will die. Right? And he's still summarizing events. He said, so and he explains how he has made sure, he explains also how this, what Yaakov thought about the thing, about how Yosef had been torn to pieces. And saying if this goes away, then saying how Yaakov will also go down, and there's nothing else that he can do, and he'll also, life's over if he loses this child too, and that'll be it. Okay, and then Yehuda takes responsibility on behalf of Binyamin, and says, therefore, he says, let me be instead of him here. Now, therefore, here from verse 33.
Now, therefore, let my servant, I pray thee, abide instead of a bondsman to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father if the lad be not with me, lest I look upon the evil that shall come on my father?
Okay, so, right, so we see here, and then the next verse, we get to the Yosef being unable to hold himself back. That's the next verse. So the question is,
But now we're on to the next parsha.
right, we're the next, right. But as far as in the Tzivim themselves go, right, they lead right. This is one conversation, right? We switched parsha in the middle here when we got to Vayigash Elav Yehuda in verse. Here was that. That was in verse. Here in verse 18. We technically switched parshas, right, from last week to this week, verse 18. But as far as this is one conversation, right? It doesn't really stop. It's kind of going the whole way,
Right.
whole way through, right? It's one
Right.
conversation. This whole long thing since they decided to chase after Binyamin and not give up, one long conversation. So the question is, now what? Right. So the question is, so we see the next verse is that Yosef's going to have to hold himself back, not be able to hold himself back anymore. The question is, what causes him not to hold back anymore, and what that indicates about his plan. Okay, so let's give the options. Okay, so what?
He's afraid that
So let's go through the options in order. Okay, let's do the revenge plot. Let's do the one that's least likely first. Okay, revenge plot. So what happens is that Yosef decides, right? What does Yosef decide after he sees this whole thing? He decides that he can't go through with the revenge anymore because he's like, my brothers don't deserve it, right? Like they are. Maybe he initially wanted to take revenge, but now it's like my brothers are completely faultless. They have gone above and beyond protecting Binyamin. So like, That's it. Time to reveal myself. Right? That's right. He didn't want to hold back anymore. Therefore, now it's time to reveal. Right? That's one option.
Or maybe he got his revenge because he had them under him and fearing for their lives, and maybe he got some revenge.
Maybe he got enough revenge. Right? He's satisfied. He's flaked his thirst for revenge sufficiently. Another good option. So
I'm not a big subscriber of his revenge.
right. Don't worry. We're just addressing them one at a time, the options. The next option is let's go with the Ramban, fulfillment of the dreams option. Have the dreams been fulfilled yet? We've had all the brothers bow down, but
No,
right, no, they're not all fulfilled
the
yet.
father.
Right, where's his father bowing down to him? Like that's not here yet. Like that failure, right? Yosef failed. According to the Ramban, Yosef failed his mission, his plan. Okay, so let's see. According to Hirsch, that the goal was to try and reframe the relationship between him and his brothers. Did he fulfill that already? Right, to mend the relationship and like make sure his brothers aren't hating or like have a better relationship amongst themselves. So the brothers that he sees in front of him, at least, are willing to die for each other. So that's as strong of bond as you could possibly wish for, right? And perhaps you get a hint towards the way that Yaakov relates to the kids, because we finally hear, Yehuda saying just how torn up Yaakov was about leaving. Not only about how torn up he was about when Yosef was ripped to shreds, also about how torn up he was about how sad and how distraught he was over Shimon's imprisonment, and also how he was about to you say he'd basically kill himself if he lost another son. So it seems to indicate that he really does actually, right? So as far as right, so we see that Yosef's relationship with the brothers' relationship with each other, it seems to be rock solid. And it seems like Yaakov cares dearly about each and every one of his kids. So for that one also, it's all fulfilled. And let's say that, okay, so that was reversed. So it was reversed, now would be the right time to reveal himself. How about according to the tshuva option of Barbanel? Did the brothers fully repent at this point?
I think they repented because they expressed that they did wrong and they're doing better now.
Right, same situation as before. They could have sold out their brother, given up. They don't. They stand by him and they try and protect him as much as they can. Right, that sounds like tshuva to me. So we mentioned within the Ramban that maybe there was some greater plan in mind that Yosef was trying to do by following the dreams. Okay, so let me offer a variation on that. Okay, so we see that the loyal always has to take, right? So notice that the refraining here isn't just about intellectual deciding that they're ready, but also that it's coupled with crying, right? And Yosef could not refrain himself before all of them to sit by him, and he cried, "Cause every man to go out from me." Right, and and then everybody left, and he wept aloud, and the Egyptians heard, and the house of Paro heard. And Yosef said to his brothers, "I am Yosef, and my father is still alive." So the fact that there's so much emotion involved in Yosef's reveal and his crying, which we noticed before also, perhaps indicates that Yosef is not simply we have fulfilled whatever my thought process I had before tshuva. We checked the box. So I would like to argue that maybe Yosef's plan wasn't fully fulfilled. And whichever plan it was, of any of the plans we mentioned before, maybe there was another step left in the tshuva process. Maybe there was more revenge that had to be that he could have exacted. Maybe there could have been a better way to improve the relationship between the brothers. But Yosef can't do it anymore, right? He's eating him up inside to do this to his brothers and his father. He just can't do it anymore. So my question is, what if Yosef had the mental fortitude be of insane proportions? What would he have done?
If what?
If Yosef had the mental fortitude of a Vulcan, of a insert your I don't know of a robot, right? He is going to do what logically makes sense. He's a cold-hearted, logical human being. So, assuming that we managed, right? What would he have done?
But there was also the fear. There was also the fear that they would kill him and kill all of Egypt.
Right. So that is
we're not talking about a,
right. So the Midrash says the reason why he revealed. So that's what I'm actually separating out from the Midrash interpretation is that the reason why Yosef revealed himself is emphasizing any of the opinions that Michelle mentioned. Rather,
you don't want to do anymore?
Rather, it's because right, it's not right. So they say that the only reason why, right? So the Midrash Rabbah, right, Kobarashi, the only reason why Yosef revealed himself is because he didn't want them to react violently and kill everybody in the area like they did to Shem. So the only problem is that that's not what it looks like in the Psukim. Right, so that is what the Midrash says. Right, that was the reason why he revealed himself, is out of fear. But that doesn't look like fear in this case from Sukkim. And according to the 5 approaches in the Parshanim that I gave, again, the Parshanim are arguing Midrash, not me. Right, but they're all saying that no, it's not that he did it because he was afraid of Yosef running on a rampage. Rather, of Yehuda and the brothers, rampaging and destroying everything. Rather, it's because he can't hold back. Emotionally, he can't hold back anymore. Or because maybe it's the right time to reveal himself now. So if it's the right time to reveal himself, then the end. But I'd say that it's not the right time to reveal himself. Because normally if you want to, according to Hirsch, I do not think he wanted to reveal himself bursting out crying. That's not the reveal he wanted with his brothers. Right? If you want to show a point of strength, you want to like reset your relationship, you're saying it as being breakdown crying isn't going to do it. If you're trying to exact revenge, that's a really weird aha moment. If the ruler just breaks out sobbing, it doesn't really quite have the same feel to it. Remember the giving the full revenge. And as far as let's say the Ramban who says, well, he wanted to make sure that Yaakov would also come bow down to him. Well, Yaakov is not going to come bow down with the brothers. Now, is he? So I suggest another option. That Yosef's plan was he was trying to fulfill the dreams. Why? Because he didn't want the brothers to know who he was ever. Right? Yosef planned on holding himself back till the very day he died. He was going to remain in silence the whole way through. That was his plan. Right? His goal was to either get his revenge, to have his brothers do tshuva, right? To fix the relationships. But where was Yosef going to be? Yosef would be sitting as vizier in Egypt, and the Jews would be elsewhere. So why would Yosef want to do that? Right? Because Yosef may have thought that he was beyond all saving. And he thought the last thing he could do to make right with his family was to at least fix their problem, right? He doesn't deserve to be part of the family anymore. He knows that he messed up. But at the very least, he's got the power to fix his family. He should at least try that. But then Yosef chooses not to, right? Meaning, not that he chooses not to, he can't, right? He knows that the best thing for the family is for them to never know who he is. And why do I say that? Because when we look at Yosef's plan, he says, oh, I'm going to hide you guys out in Goshen. It'll be fine. I'll feed you. You can go back afterwards. Right? That's Yosef's plan. Right? He wanted to simply have them come down to Goshen. I'll support you and you go back afterwards. But what actually happens? Verse 16. The report was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying Yosef's brothers had come, and it pleased Pharaoh well and his servants. Right, so everything until now was in the hands of Yosef. But what happens once Yosef reveals himself? Who gets involved? Paro. Right now, Paro's running the show, not Yosef, but Paro. Right, so Paro says, bring them. Right, and not only that, he has
You're freezing.
what?
Rabbi, you're freezing.
Okay, I'll try that again. So the brother, right? So
Please.
Paro takes charge instead of Yosef running the show. Now Paro is, and since Paro is running the show, Paro is going to choose.
Yes. Could you get cutting piece, please?
Yes, you
Thanks.
Okay, right. So what's the brothers go? Right. So there, and then as far as what the plan of Paro is. So Paro's plan is he wants them there, but he doesn't want them to leave. Here, I'm sorry, I have to skip the names. Here we go. 1 second. You have Yosef telling the brothers before they go see Paro. Remember, you guys are shepherds. You're shepherds. You're shepherds. You're shepherds. Okay, that's this paragraph over here. When he finds, like, that's what he says to his family when he doesn't see them in years. Remember, you guys are shepherds. And then when they finally end up meeting Paro, Paro suggests, 1 second.
You're freezing again.
Yeah, I see that.
That's it. I'll see you in a minute.
Um,
Elaine,
Yeah, no, he's frozen.
Mazel tov. Mazel tov.
Thank you. I'm
Okay.
her grandmother.
oh,
Yeah, I'm sure you're related.
Okay, 1 second. Let's try and fix my Wi-Fi. 1 second.
Did you know when you were in Israel earlier this year
Did I know what?
that she was pregnant?
Like, no. Oops,
Wonderful news. We're so happy for you guys.
thank you.
Sorry, Rabbi. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
This is
Yeah.
being
Cloud,
Okay, good. Okay.
loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe I cut out there. Okay. So Paro says, right? So Paro says that if there's any of you guys are strong, I want you to be in charge of my flock. Right? And note that everywhere throughout to the end, Paro is in charge, and right, he determines whether they come or they go. And when we get to the end, and when Yosef is trying to bury Yaakov, he needs to beg permission from Paro to go bury his father. Right? And we also see that Yosef gives up on going back to Israel, right? And says that we're going to live here till the end. So my suggestion is that why did Yosef not reveal himself? Because he knew the future. Why did he see the future?
You knew the plan.
What? Right? He had a plan, right?
He was a prophet. He knew God's plan to a certain extent.
Right. You could say he's a Navi, or you could say that simply he's that brilliant, right? One or the other. Both are completely valid things to say about Yosef, right? He had prophetic dreams, and he's also smart enough to interpret them and bring them into reality. So that's what Yosef wanted. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. I'll explain that outside. Okay, so Yosef had a plan, right? He was hoping to save all the Jews without them ever knowing who he is. The only problem with his plan is that if he saved them, and that if he wanted to properly save them, they would never know who he was, ever. And if they ever found out, it would ruin the whole plan, right? He had to be, undercover agent till his death. But Yosef can't handle it, right? He knows intellectually that's the way to go, but emotionally, right, he can't bear to never. He sees his parents, he sees that his brothers have, come back full circle and repented, and he sees that there's hope for him to again be part of the family, and he simply can't give up on that, right? And in the end, we do wind up spending 200 plus years as in Egypt, most of which as slaves. But the question is that a bad thing? Is that a worthwhile trade? To have Yosef and the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, if Yosef's plan has succeeded and he had been able to hold himself back, we may not have had two tribes of Israel. Jewish history would not be Jewish history as we know it. So we'd be missing a large portion of it. We'd be missing Yosef. And would that be Jewish history that we want? So thankfully, Yosef did have emotions, and he was overcome at the right time and revealed himself, which allowed the Jews to again, once again, become the 12 tribes. Okay, feel free to ask any questions.
I have a question.
So,
Do you think that it was Yosef's plan or Hashem's plan for Yosef not to reveal himself?
I believe it was potentially both. Meaning, in order for Yosef's here, what God's plan was, what happened in the end is God's plan. So, like, that's a little, I know it's a little cheating, but like, that's kind of how it has to be. But if the dreams had been fulfilled exactly as they seemed in that sequence, the only way to have it fully done properly is for Yosef to not know who Yosef is, or they won't all bow to him. Because like you're never gonna get everybody to bow to Yosef if they know who he is. Right? That's not gonna happen.
But what if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just held off until Yaakov came, not knowing who Yosef was, and for Yaakov to bow down? Wouldn't that have fulfilled the dream?
It will fulfill the dream, but I would argue that while it may have fulfilled the dream, it wouldn't have. Question: what is the purpose of the dream? Is the goal to have the Jews be in the best situation possible? So I would say that argue the best situation for the Jews is to not wind up being in Egypt for 200 years as slaves. Right? I would agree. I would argue that that's not if you want to say the best possible solution, that would not be it. The best possible solution would be for the Jews to survive the famine and then be able to continue living on in Israel. The 200 years of slavery is not necessary. It might not be a necessary portion. I mean, Shira is arguing that she thinks that it was necessary for them to become a people, but I would say that you could have another. In order to have your people become a people, you don't need to. It's not. People don't only become a nation because they were slaves. There's other ways to become a nation besides that. Again,
but he must have known. He must have known that God said that to his grandfather, to his great grandfather,
so
that they were going to be slaves in Egypt.
So the answer to that,
So he knew the plan.
no. So the Brit Ben Abitarim is that this is I guess a little bit of the side. So the Brit Ben Abitarim doesn't say where they're going to be slaves. Right?
Oh, okay, but
It says there's two separate conditions given in the Brit Ben Abitarim. One is that it'll be 400 years. The other one is that it'll be in 4 generations, and then they'll be able, and then they will be in a foreign land, and then they will be afflicted, and then they will be able to return. So I believe Rabbi Chaim Metzger, as well as others, can't remember who else. I know that he for sure says it in his book, that there was a potential, right? That the Brit term is flexible, right? Shortest time frame is 4 generations. Longest time frame is 400 years. What ends up actually being the time frame only ends up being around 200 or so years, right? The full time frame, right? Between, right? The only 200 years in slavery.
400 from the birth of Isaac.
Right. So he suggests that it could have all been fulfilled simply in the time of Yosef, right? Yosef is the 4th generation, right? Yosef and his brothers are the 4th generation, correct?
Yes.
What was Yaakov for 14 years in the house of Lavan? He was a slave.
For that,
right? We have Arameo Beit Avi, right? The Aramean tried to kill my father, right? So we have Yaakov being oppressed and enslaved for a number of years while they're in Egypt, while they're in Aram. So it's possible that it could have been fulfilled already, potentially, if the Jews were worthy at that point. Evidently they're not, which is why the story continues. But the potential was that if the brothers, right, Yaakov and the brothers had been worthy at that point, the story could have ended potentially there. Right? We could have simply grown naturally as a nation in Israel, not have had to be in Egypt whatsoever, because we already had fulfilled the suffering by going to Iran. So therefore, we could have had our nation-forming event. Again, we all suffered by the hand of Lavan for 20 years, right? And now, we're all better for it, and we should be a united front. But they weren't.
But that was just Yaakov who suffered.
Not just Yaakov. Rachel and Leah say that our father-in-law treated us as if we were strangers.
Okay.
Right?
But
So
does it
Eretz
mean
Nochriya, right? Remember the phrase in
Yeah,
Eretz Nochriya, and
When
they're
he went
being
to
treated
leave.
like they're strangers, even though they're technically in their father's house. So again, Rav Salmon argues it way more. Again, that would take much longer to explain. But the point being is that the Brit Bein HaMitzrayim wasn't necessarily have to be 400 years. It could have been shorter, and depending on how you calculated it, it actually was shorter. So they're saying that it's potential, and also all those years weren't in slavery. So again, it could have been that they'd have spent 200 years in Israel, just not as slaves, and just slowly building up to nationhood. That was the other option that we could have had. And yes, God always references Mitzrayim because, well, that's the biggest thing that occurred to us. But you wouldn't have needed God to have said, "Oh, I could go to Egypt." Instead of saying, it could have been replaced with God, who supported us from the time that we were simply a family of 12 till we became a nation of hundreds of thousands. You could have switched that in for that, and it would have worked just fine, potentially. Obviously, again, this didn't happen in history; it's just a theory.
So is this your own theory, or is there someone else who supports what you're saying?
No, this is my own theory based off of based off of what could have happened. I didn't see anybody else saying. Nobody else really addresses the question of what if. The closest is the Ramban, which says that he didn't fulfill the full plan, but nobody actually fully fleshes out the what if question. So hence I had to see what I could think of for what if, and I thought that was a potential option. Somebody else has heard of somebody else with another option for what if. Let me know, but I feel like I'm allowed to answer a what if question that didn't exist prior. If I construct a new question, I can answer it how I wish. I think if I made up the question, I can make up my own answer too. So I hope everybody appreciates the answer and right. Again, take it or leave it. It's not. It's yes, it's not shot. It's my own midrash. So to speak, it's a question that I had, and then that's So the other option is that there is no what if. This is exactly what it meant to be, but the text looks like there could have been another option if you had held that. So yeah. Any other questions?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Question?
Yes.
Okay, so not question, it's more like observation. So beyond this, now we look at the part where you say where they're Mitzrayim, all the brothers are Mitzrayim, and then you go to the part where you mentioned that Yosef has to beg about burying Yaakov.
Yes.
So it's fascinating how quickly Paro, after having pulled the rug out from under Yosef, is able to, I'm not enslave them, but begin to enslave them, begin to oppress them so quickly, or it seems to be so quickly anyway.
Right.
But it's he was good to have his one Jew, some of my best friends are Jewish. He was good to have his one Jew who was quiet, who was behaved. But now all his family came. It's he has this one, for instance, forgive me, modern Orthodox looking Jew, let's say, okay, who fits in, who blends in. Now all his Hasidic relatives come, and he's like, okay, forget it. We didn't want that kind. And now the whole enslavement starts.
I mean, I would argue it's a little bit different. I would argue as follows, that first he has this one brilliant, amazing person who can do literally anything and nothing can stop him. All of a sudden, I find out that I have 11 more of them. Not only 11 more of them, they were a family of 70. So wait, I can multiply my one amazing vizier who literally saved my entire country from ruin times 70. oh my God, my life is amazing. I will never let these people go ever. It's like stumbling on the biggest jackpot ever. You are never letting that go
So
ever.
then you make them into slaves? Is this like an alien
Paro,
race invading you?
okay, so that, yeah, I'll get to that when we get to smoke. But that's a different line of Paros. That's not this Paro. This Paro very much likes his Jews, and he is not letting them go no matter what.
Okay, so the next paro says they're too smart, so this is what we're going to do to them to get them
Yes.
down on the farm.
Correct. If you can't control, if you're afraid of an element, it's
Oppress it.
you oppress it until you can control it. If you're afraid of them, then yeah, if you're afraid of the Jews, then you
Okay.
start, right? So then you start doing weird things that are counterintuitive. But
Okay.
yes, so then
You
it's
haven't
I think
played-
that Paro in the time of Yosef really liked the Jews and did not want them to leave ever. That's my assertion and assumption.
Okay.
There's a repeating theme for us,
Yeah.
What?
where we get accepted by a nation and we get put into high esteem, and then we stick our heads out too much, and then somebody wants to chop it off, turn us into slaves, or turn us into whatever we're.
Right.
He set the pace.
Well,
Right.
if you look later on, Rav Samson or Hirsch says that Paro had the blueprint for how to oppress the Jews. He goes through
Right.
the whole story, and he's time and time again, he was the first one, and everybody follows his plan for generations.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, so yes. Okay. So again, not that at the time. Again, Yosef wanted to head off the whole thing happening by pretending that he's the only magical, amazing Yosef, and there's nobody else like him. But once somebody found out there's other Jews, it got messy and complicated. So Yosef wanted to avoid it. He couldn't. Again, better that we have Yosef. Again, probably worthwhile trade, I would argue, to have Yosef and his family as part of the Jewish people. But again, still, that is the price that we had to pay to have Yosef.
Another question, Chaim.
So as far as you mentioned before about how what Tzaddikim saying coming true. So yeah, they really all did have to become slaves because of what they said, right? The brothers said, "We'll all become slaves for what you did for what Binyamin did in terms of whoever took the goblet," and they all became slaves. Yeah. Yes, Mom.
Okay. So you started talking about Vayigash, and the only thing kept on popping into my head, maybe it's wrong, I don't know, is Vayigash Haman. Did I make that up? Is that a thing? Did Haman also have that Vayigash, or did I make that up?
Let me do a quick search just to confirm. Vayigash, searching variant forms and everything. Let's see what we get. Yes. And Esther Barakeh, Vayigash Haman. Yes, he held himself. Correct. That's an Esther here. I'll bring it up in here.
How many other times does it say Vayigash? Now that you brought it up.
I can do an exact search for the root.
Sorry, I don't know. Just that particular phrase.
I'm
off topic. I'm sorry.
Here, 1 second. I'm doing a search on. 1 second.
Sorry.
You need to do a root search. 1 second. Ayin, Pei, Kuf, root. 1 second. What? Aleph. Yes, I wrote Aleph. I said Ayin. Sorry. And search all databases. Okay, 1 second. So in Tanakh, it comes up 18 times. It comes up in the context of, no, that's the king. A lot of times the place Afekah. Comes up in Shmuel. It comes up, it's relatively rare. It comes up like 8 times.
Okay, for another time.
For another time, yes. Correct.
Just in stuff that is familiar to me. Come on. So it comes up every year.
He also pulled himself back in his anger against Mordecai after he had to lead him through the streets. Right. So those times when he held himself back. So that's why Haman didn't kill himself back then, and then instead he had his other plan afterwards with hanging.
All right, no problem. Unrelated. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You are correct. There's a lot of parallels between Yosef and Yosef's story and Gil's Esther, which we will save for her time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get.
No, it's fine. Good question. It's a good question. I know we're a bit over time, but it's fine. Right. So.
All right.
Okay. So if anybody has to go, feel free. I'm happy to field any question anybody has. Again, no obligation to stick around. I know it's late, so whatever works for everybody. Okay. So yeah. So feel free to ask any. I'm happy to answer any and all questions on this or anything else. So. Yes. So. Yes. So right. So we had the pattern of Jewish history, right? So that was Sforno mentioned that he wanted to fulfill the dream, so that way the Jewish history would turn out the right way. So seemingly God interfered with that happening, right? Yeah. Yosef wanted to show that we're always in charge and we're not susceptible. Yet God did not allow.
Another plan.
That was not the plan. So.
You know what they say? We make plans and God laughs.
That's true. No, I'm not sure that we actually don't see what God says in this whole segment. So it's like we see what Yosef thinks that is God's plan. We see what the brothers think is God's plan, but right, we know that God says go to Egypt. That's basically all he says. So.
Okay.
A little unclear, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, importantly, we see him take us out of Egypt.
Correct.
So.
We get out of Egypt too. Correct. We'll have to say about that as well. Okay. Also, before I close, I just want to remind everybody that next week we will not be meeting because next week is Tanakh in a day. By Midrash Taekwondo. So please tune in for that. Information should be sent out in the show bulletins. If not, please feel free to message me, and I will send you the information if you can't find it in some other manner. Again, that's going to be next Sunday morning as well as Sunday evening. With a break in the afternoon. That way we'll be able to go through Tanakh as the book of healing. So hopefully good stories in Tanakh, and that'll be next time.